This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, I got lots of speakers going here. Let me turn that one off. All right, fabulous. So, hello, everyone. It is so great to have you here for the Smashing Your Sales Goals Experts Tell All webinar. I am so thrilled to have this amazing panel here with us today to share some secrets, to bust some myths, and to really, hopefully for everyone, provide some inspiration. Because as Annette said, and as Michelle said, like you can have some great sales moments, but you're always going to be learning new strategies and new techniques as things continue to change and evolve. My name is Dr. Erika Pryor. I am the founder of Epic Learning, and I am the creator of the Smashing Your Sales Goals platform. So today is the launch of the Smash movement, and I'm so happy to have you all here with us for this really exciting time. So I am going to go ahead and share one of my screens here, and we'll bring up the slide deck. So now we are going to be taking questions. This is an interactive experience. Welcome, Christine Wilson, owner of CW Wellness by Design. Thank you so much for joining us. Another entrepreneur in the house. We've got a great cross section of individuals from different industries here today, and we've really got an amazing panel lined up for you today. So I couldn't be more excited to kick off this in this way. So again, my name is Dr. Erika Pryor. I am the founder of Epic Learning. We are a training and development company here in Columbus, Ohio, although we work with now virtually clients throughout the country, and we really want to create aha moments for learners. So figuring out those ways to have those moments where it all clicks for you and you're able to apply what it is that you've learned. I will be your moderator today. On the panel discussing with us, one of our experts is Courtnee Hawkins from Freedom Equity, who is Business Programs Director there. Abiona Harper from Columbus Chamber of Commerce, who is a Business Program Coordinator. And then Erika Hill from Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, the Executive Director in Northeast Ohio. And we'll dig in a little bit more on who's here with us today. But one of the reasons that I selected each of our panelists is because they occupy the exciting and unique position of both being business owners or have been business owners, as well as being in the position of supporting business owners. So they're very well versed in understanding what the experience is like firsthand, but then also what the range of experiences look like for individuals at that stage across different industries. So if you have questions, please throw them in the chat, because this is a collection of women who are really going to be able to offer some diverse perspective to you and be able to kind of get you in on some of those secrets and nuances. So here's a brief agenda of what we'll be going through today. We'll be doing a little intention setting, and that's really just to give you an overview of what the SMASH program is and what some of our core pillars are and what we hope to deliver to you today. We'll introduce further our panelists, and then we'll really jump into some of the sales principles that are a part of the SMASH program, and then we'll have some very deep dive questions from to the panel to discuss some of those sales principles in a little more detail. So that's how we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to Smash Nation. It is grounded by this self-paced course called Smashing Your Sales Goals. And this is really a part of a movement to help people accomplish and achieve their wildest BHAG sales dreams and goals. I think that sometimes people are afraid of sales. I think a lot of people, again, accidentally find themselves in sales positions. I know I certainly found myself that. And so I really kind of wanted to come up with some pillars that were going to help me figure out how to create this course and create this program to deliver it in a way that's going to support entrepreneurs. And so everything is really based around three core pillars: smash it, cash it, and stash it. So smash it is what we hope to deliver here today, which is to empower you to achieve your wildest sales goals and dreams. We're delivering innovative training, innovative content, in person and live events to be able to empower you. Our next goal is to cash it, and that's CACHE. And so we really want to encourage individuals to leverage technologies and the new technologies that are emerging each day that are going to allow us to be more productive, more efficient, and ultimately more creative and free up our time, right? So that we're able to continue to drive those sales and to do it in more unique and efficient ways. And then the last thing we want to do here is we want you to stash it. So this is where we uplift our community partners that are here with us and in the ecosystems that we serve in financial services that are going to be able to help us figure out how to best make that money work for us as business owners. So whether that's working with a CDFI to secure a small interest loan, whether that's working with a financial advisor to develop more portfolio products for your retirement, whatever that is, because we know, especially for women business owners, when you hit retirement, there's not a whole lot there. Many people have not planned for that. So how can we now make our money work long tail for us, so in the future we have some stash in different places and spaces that we're able to call upon? So that's our intention here to deliver to you today, is some great information, is to deliver some technologies that you're going to be able to better utilize to help you in your work. And then hopefully we have uplifted some of our partners here in the ecosystem that have the resources and can offer you the support to continue to make your money work for you long tail. So now let's jump into who's with us today. So again, my name is Dr. Erika Pryor. I'm your moderator. I'm the founder and CEO of Epic Learning. And I started this company like so many people, during the pandemic in 2020. I was unceremoniously released from a job like many people. And during that time, I had to realize like a lot that, you can pour a lot into your job, but that doesn't mean that the job loves you and they're going to pour that same level of energy into you when it comes to staying in survival and being able to continue to be in business. And so I really have taken my experience as an educator and my experience as a marketing professional and my love to contribute to the ecosystem that I feel like I've gotten so much from, and put that all together. And so we're in the business of developing training that's really application based, and that is focused on giving you nuggets that you can utilize today to make a difference in your work. Next, we have Courtnee Scott Hawkins, who is the Director of Business Services. And Courtnee and I go way back. So I'm so thrilled to have her here with us. Today, she is with Freedom Equity. Courtnee has had at least 5 businesses. I feel like every time I've met you, you've like started a new business, including home care, including the Judge's Mansion. With Freedom Equity, Courtnee helps business owners access capital, access services, and get them on the road to continued sustainability and growth. And so right now we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask you, Courtnee, what is the biggest myth that you have had busted for you, or that you've busted for a business owner in your work so far?
If you build something or create something, they will come. You think you have a great idea and you create something and assume that customers are going to follow it. And then I have to be honest, on the lending side, a myth that we commonly bust is business owners will feel that capital brings them customers. And so they'll feel like if they get money just to market, that's going to open the floodgates to get their either product or service out into the market. and not having a plan of how you're going to be responsible with that capital, or having it intentionally go somewhere that's a part of your growth process, is a myth that needs to be busted. If you don't have a plan and you have money to grow your business through marketing, you need to know your audience, you need to know your customer, and you need to have a plan for those dollars.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you know what? I mean, I've heard the field of dreams method to sales on a number of occasions, and it's rooted, you know, and I'm a marketing professional, and it's rooted in this idea that if I just market, this it will all just like snap into place from there. So I love that as our first myth busted. Next on our panel is Abiona Stinson Harper, who is a business programs coordinator with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Abiona also is a woman who has 20 years of experience with customer service in retail, I think also in health and beauty as well. Started a nationwide brand ambassador loyalty program and is Lean Six Sigma certified. And we're so thrilled that she is now with the to the Chamber of Commerce, and that she is like helping build some of the amazing programs that are coming out of there. Welcome, Abby. I would love to hear from you. What are some of the biggest myths or myth that you have busted or had busted for yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Pryor. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, everyone. Small business is my jam. All right. Like I have a deep passion for small business and seeing entrepreneurs win. As you had mentioned, I have an extensive knowledge of customer service. And I think that one of the biggest myths that I've had to bust and seen busted is that the customer is always right. That's not always the case. I think that
Wait, no,
you
hold on.
have
You need to say that one more time because a lot of people in the back may not have heard you. And this is something that can definitely drive how it is that you engage in your sales process. So one more time in the back first, please.
Absolutely. So for the people in the back, the myth to be busted is that the customer is always right. Not true. I am a firm believer that it is important to provide excellent customer service and listen to customer feedback, but you really have to set appropriate boundaries and manage expectations while being responsive and respectful to the customer. So when it takes you out of line with what your true intention is, and your capabilities, the customer is not always right, but it is important to listen to that customer and be responsive to their feedback.
That is great advice and recommendation because frequently consultants will be out here running around, taking calls at 9 o'clock at night, promising this on some short deadlines because the customer, the client has not necessarily planned adequately or perhaps hasn't communicated what their needs are. And you can draw boundaries. You can draw boundaries that will actually improve your sales process, improve your client service delivery, and improve your relationships with your clients. So amazing. I love that. Thank you so much. Welcome. And also on our panel today is Erika Hill, who is the Northeast Ohio Executive Director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. So we're so happy to have her. She is originally from Columbus. She has an extensive both community service history as well as a communications background and is certified in project management. So process and operations are also things that really get Erika excited, I'm guessing. So Erika, thank you so much for joining us. A little bit about yourself and what a myth is that you've busted or had busted for you.
Thank you, Dr. Pryor. I'm very glad to be here and staying connected in both Cleveland and Columbus. I would say that in my background in working with business owners that, there may be a hesitance of, I don't know if anyone would want my product or want my service. And what myth that's been busted for me that I pass on to business owners is that you are doing that prospective decision maker, you're doing them a favor by putting your product and service in front of them. So if they have a need or a want that needs to be fulfilled, a lot of times they may be in search of something, they're doing a lot of work to figure it out. But if you put your product or service in front of them thinking that it's a potential need and want fulfillment, then you are doing them a favor. So that means that you could go in with confidence, and that's regardless if they say yes or no, you're doing them a favor by giving them an option. So I would say lead with confidence in knowing that.
Fabulous. And I also love that recommendation, because in those moments where you're trying to decide whether or not your potential customer even wants your product, when you decide they don't even want it, I'm not even going to present it, you've now made the decision for them that they're not even going to have the opportunity to consider buying from you. Right. So we want to make sure that we are, as Erika said, going in with confidence, because if a person has expressed that they have a need, then that's your opportunity. And I think the other side of that myth too is waiting for people to tell you exactly what their need is. Like, most of the time their need exists in this amorphous space that they can't necessarily articulate all the way to you. And so part of your opportunity, again, is to identify what that need is and to bring out the products or services that that customer is looking for, that they didn't necessarily know that they were looking for. So fabulous. So today we are going to add questions to the chat. We want you to stay engaged and stay with us. We've got quite a few folks on the line. Diamond, thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to have you. Who else we have? Dominique, thank you so much for joining. Izzy, Joanna, thank you so much for joining. Mark, Michelle, Tammy, we really appreciate all of you here. If you would like to throw into the chat a little bit about yourself and what you're hoping to gain from today, we would love that. As we get towards the end, one of the things, again, we want to do is uplift our partners that have resources for you. So you will be able to sign up for newsletters from all of the organizations that are represented today. We'll have that information for you in the slide deck when we send that out. And then we also have a small challenge for you. So I'll tell you a little bit about the sales challenge that I've been doing for the last 30 days and some of the results and my challenge to you. And then hopefully you will register for the next event. So we want you to stay with us and stay engaged as we can continue to plug forward. So our first sales principle here is really about practice and discipline. And I put this out here just because a lot of people, again, think about sales as a field of dreams, and that field is sort of spottily utilized, and there isn't always like a discipline around the practices and the activities and the time and the energy it takes to derive the sales results that you want to see. And so I'd love to hear from our panel today a little bit more about practices that you see individuals doing that do not yield results, that they could stop doing today. Courtney, let's start with you.
Practices, in the lens of sales, I know that, we think, how are we gathering leads, or how are we being intentional about our leads? Maybe that's a newsletter. Maybe it's a blog. But I think one of the opportunities that we miss out on. So if you do create a blog, if you do create a newsletter, if you even have a CRM or a spreadsheet, you need to actually be analyzing those leads. So I think that that's something important that we often overlook is, what are you actually doing with those names? Like, how are you cultivating them? And, not saying that we have a sophisticated sales funnel by any means as small business owners, but how are you being intentional about every interaction that you're having with someone? And if they are coming into that invitation that you're giving them, whether it's a newsletter or connecting, or even like coming to this webinar, like, what is the call to action after? And then how are you analyzing how many people are staying like within your pipeline, and how many of those leads are actually converting to sales?
No, that's a great recommendation. I mean, I've been to many webinar mini virtual event. And I've been to many in-person events, signed my name, never heard from anyone ever again. I'm guilty of it as well. I have certainly like hosted things and known I should have done my due diligence because there could have been some opportunities and just dropped the ball. So great recommendation around the discipline that if you put in the energy to create something that captures leads and brings those leads to you inbound, you want to continue that energy when you are trying to cultivate that into a relationship and into an opportunity. Abby, what do you have as a potential recommendation or something you've seen business owners do that they could stop doing right now from a practice or discipline perspective?
I would say maybe not something that they're not that they're doing that they could stop doing, but maybe something that they're not doing, and that's just really thanking the customer for their business. So many times, I think that we take the sale for granted, and we're not thanking the customer for their business. We know that I'm all about customer service. So exceptional customer service will reward great word of mouth referrals, and then also encourage repeat business. So just thanking the customer for their business, because I mean, in this time of entrepreneurship, there are tons of options for your service offering more than likely. So being intentional about thanking that customer for their business, I think is huge for repeat business and for growth.
Oh my God, I love that. And that only makes sense as somebody who is on the brand ambassador referral front, that you are creating opportunities for your customers to become your best salespeople, right? That's really what that means when we talk about ambassadorship. And my little story about this is I just recently started working with a new tax accounting professional. Highly recommended, super excited, great work, lots of automation, so we don't have to like interact in real time all of the time. And I sent another individual to her. And so on our second meeting, I said, hey, I heard my friend had signed up. They're getting started. Do you have a referral program? Like if I send you them, am I going to get a thank you in terms of a discount on my future services? And she just looked at me and was like, no, we don't do that. I said, well, I just literally just sent you like a hot lead. They just signed up. Like that you didn't have to do anything but like send them the sign up link. Like there's no thank you for that. And she was like, no, that's not something that we do. I said, okay, well, I will just keep that in mind as I think about future individuals to refer and where it is that I might take my business elsewhere. Because when I was with Cohatch, I loved their referral program. Every time I sent someone, I got $100 off of my rent for that month. So there were literally 4 months that I had to pay no rent because I was like, yo, head on over to Cohatch. They're fabulous. So you are absolutely correct. And when you are able to really, truly thank your customers for their time, for their energy, for their commitment, you will in fact see a change in that continued loyalty. Erika, what about you? What do you think business owners can start doing or stop doing when it comes to a practice or a discipline?
Business owners can stop marketing, promoting, and pitching to everyone.
Now, can you explain that a little bit more? I feel like that's a little mysterious as you talk about it.
So you want the people who readily resonate with your product and service. And you definitely do not want the feedback from people who are saying, I'm not your customer, but this is what I think. I'm not your audience, but this is what I think. I think it's a moot point to have that conversation if you're not my audience or customer. So you want to focus on those who are showing interest and resonating with your offering. And definitely to everyone else's point, that is identifying your target audience, that is building a leads pipeline, that is nurturing your repeat customers. All of those groups are interested in what you have to offer. So I would say stop wasting time in marketing, promoting, and pitching to everyone. Everyone's
Thank you.
not your customer.
Absolutely. And this is definitely one of those places where tech is going to be a really solid resource for you in terms of being able to identify your different audience segments and your different customer segments and communicating to them, and then being able to say, okay, here, here is my persona, here is my customer profile, here are the needs we're able to offer, and then here is how and when and the frequency at which we want to communicate with them. Now we have a question here, Michelle. She's talking about loyalty programs can be a little bit tricky in the B2B space. Abby, do you have any suggestions or recommendations about like simple, straightforward loyalty programs that people can perhaps kind of quickly implement or refine?
Absolutely. Sometimes with loyalty programs, a lot of people think that it has to be about some type of a discount or freebie, and not necessarily. Sometimes people just want to be aligned with a tribe. It's really about the culture and just being so enthused about the business and its offering, its principles, its core values, and its integrity. So sometimes it's just maybe just a mention, thanking someone else for partnering with them. A lot of times you can partner with somebody and it doesn't cost you anything just to mention their name. So that way, the same love that they're showing your business is the same love that you can return to their business. So I agree that it can be tricky because in loyalty, the thought is that you have to provide some type of a discount offering or some type of freebie. And that's not always the case. Just one referral can lead to a real trajectory of repeat business. So just kind of big in the B2B world, again, just showing love to that business and that business showing love to you in return doesn't necessarily have to equate to any type of a discount or freebie service.
Good recommendation. And, that's one of the things, like the shout outs and the, even making the connection, right? Like when I have made connections for individuals and they've taken the time to just call me and say, hey, I followed up with that person. We had some great conversations. We're now going to be working on X, Y, and Z together. That's truly enough thank you, because that was my hope, is that there would be some sort of opportunity that emerged from that, and to know that that is what came to fruition, that's enough thank you as well. But being able to acknowledge, I think, your customers and your clients in a way that's going to be meaningful to them, Great.
And then it's a way to create more visibility for your business as well, maybe in an arena or a market that you normally wouldn't have access to.
Absolutely. Now, sales principle number 2, process and enablement. So our sales process is really going to be the steps that you undertake internally and externally to identify, earn, and secure that new business or that repeat business. And then our enablement is then the activities in that process that facilitate those sales or that sales cycle. And what this boils down to is you've got a big kind of Uber process for front facing, and then for your customer facing. And then of course you've got micro processes for how you get from one spot to the next and how you move that customer through that process. So I'd love to, okay, this is where we get some smash talk here. I'd love to dive into RFPs, RFIs, RFQs. There's always tons of discussion about these, and I know every woman on this panel has a specific perspective. So Abby, I'd love to start with you. What is your perspective on RFPs, RFIs? Is it worth integrating into your sales process? Do you throw it out? Give me your ideas.
I do love the idea because I think that it kind of allows you to create a template to your offering. That way, when you have new requests, it ensures consistency and completeness to make sure that you're addressing the pain points and that you're able to meet the need. So I do love integrating RFPs. And then also it gives you an opportunity to show where you add value in comparison to your competition.
Okay, so I hear RFPs like this-ish. And I mean, the great thing that you've said and that I've certainly kind of utilized is that it gives you an opportunity to create and refine your template of offerings. So there is definitely a bonus there. Now, Courtney is over here shaking her head and almost losing it because she has some strong opinions on RFPs. So Courtney, lay it on us. What is your perspective? What are your thoughts?
I mean, my opinion with every business owner and having been there myself is just plan, right? Um, if you plan, you like minimize the risk to fail. And so I have to say that from the jump. But I mean, I'm in between on RFPs and RFIs. And this is why, because most of the time, okay, actually, let me rephrase that. If you are going to go after an RFP, an RFI, if you're going to go after a grant, you need to have a clear understanding of that organization's strategic goals and how your company or your work align or can support those goals. And then back to planning. First off, you got to know when the submission like cutoff is. Like, I don't know how many of us are rushing to submit and sometimes applying for the same pot of money. Like, know when the cutoff is. But if you know when the cutoff is, right, and you take time to map out what applying for this RFP looks like, you also need to know that the businesses that have been awarded in the past. And we don't take time to do that. So we miss opportunities because we could find out how we stack up to like the quote unquote competition or who else might be applying. And then sometimes we just get too darn colorful. Like RFPs are generally direct. Sometimes they're from the city, sometimes they're from, Fortune 500 companies. They're not looking for like these amazing new innovative things. Sometimes they just need a company to come do something. An example of this is I was looking for how Freedom Equity, what we do, supports the strategic initiatives of the library. And so I saw at the very bottom that they have supplier diversity is one of their strategic goals. And I went and looked at who was awarded for the Library Fest that we had here, which was huge, one of the biggest in the United States. Y'all, for tents, there were only two companies applied to be the tent providers, suppliers for that
Wow.
event. And you know what? None of them were women or people of color. And you know what? They both got awarded.
Right,
However,
exactly.
the point is know what the organization is doing, know how what you do aligns, and don't be out here just writing anything that looks exciting because it's not going to work out for you. It's going to be not a good use of your time when you could be out doing other revenue generating opportunities. I'm done with that.
Are you sure? Are you
I'm
sure you're
sure.
done?
Going
Okay.
on mute. Going on
Thank you. I love all of that feedback because most importantly really is like, how do you align with the organization that's sponsoring that? And then how do you stack up in doing your research? I'm not even going to touch on deadlines and what that looks like because that's a whole nother thing. Erika, what are your thoughts on RFPs, RFIs, adding them into your sales process?
I know there are a lot of businesses that, all they have are all of their accounts, all of their opportunities are based on RFPs and RFIs. And I think that works for certain industries and just the nature of certain industries. However, if you are in an industry where you can diversify using RFPs and RFIs to get accounts, along with more direct agreements, direct contracts, then you should do that. You should balance out, where are my revenue streams coming from? Definitely to Abby's point, it is a good practice as far as having your ducks in a row with that template of your offering. Everywhere you go, you're gonna have to do some paperwork. You're gonna have to answer some essay question. You're gonna have to write a proposal of some sort. You're gonna have to know your numbers, your revenue numbers and your projection numbers, your financial statements. And so, having that paperwork ready to go, whether it is a RFI or RFP, or if it is a direct contract with another organization, it's just good practice. It's just a healthy habit for you to always stay organized and stay ready. And to that point, even here in Cleveland, we're hosting an event to say how to do business with these certain institutions. And I thought, well, that readily mandates a follow-up event that says, what do I need to do to get my stuff in order to do business with these institutions? Because you could say you could do businesses with us all day, but they're not going to tell you how to do it.
That's absolutely correct.
They're not going to give you handheld instructions on how to walk through the process. I want to shout out to Andrea Boyd with Ohio MBDA, because she works with business owners on issues such as that. You know, let's get your ducks in order. Let's understand what the playing field is, to Courtney's point, in understanding who do they normally give contracts to. Quit looking at them as competition. You may want to reach out to them to say, hey, is this too much work for you? Would you like to partner on this? Or, you know, are you, you know, seeking out a certain space, you know, and then you go in that other space. So definitely being knowledgeable of not only what are the steps to do business, but who are the players in that field who are trying to get those contracts. So contracts can be a good thing. The RFPs and RFIs can be a good thing if you leverage it the right way.
Absolutely. I really appreciate just importantly the recommendation of utilizing it as a strategy to diversify your customer and client base, right? Like if we only, I mean, and that goes for anything, right? We don't always only want to have all of our revenue being generated from one particular product or from a particular like only service that we're offering. So I think that is a really great recommendation from there. And for myself, having done it and continue, and I try not to do it very often, because it is, no matter how much templating you have, it's still a time commitment, because there's always different, as Erika said, paperwork, and there's lots of nuances depending on the organization or agency and what they want. But I think the opportunity is to keep trying, because eventually you may figure out what the secret sauce is. And I feel like it took us 4 times of writing our own RFPs in order to finally get a win. Now, when I've written them for other individuals, the individuals, and Courtney can attest to this, when they know their product, they know how it serves a need, they know the organization, they know exactly what to sort of tell me, how to frame it up, it typically wins, because they've got like the formula and they understand that. In instances where I've done RFPs with individuals, and this is always a challenge, is we want to do this RFP, we have no idea like if we can actually win, but we're going to need you to help us kind of formulate it. And, you know, and as a content creator in that position, I can only write what you've told me to write in many instances. So if you don't have a clear idea, as Courtney said, and a clear kind of vision as to how you are meeting the need and how you're aligning with the organization, then it is going to be a waste of time, and you're not going to kind of generate the sales or the outcomes that you're looking for. And in terms of optimizing that opportunity, I think the templates, the drill down that you can get, because frequently with those RFPs, you got to give them like 1 unit price. Like it's one. They don't want to see, as Courtney said, they don't want to see new ideas necessarily. They don't want to see like, you know, a whole itemization. They just want to drill down to what is the 1 unit price? What would they be billing in many instances? So these are great lessons learned. Now, our third sales principle really around pipelines and prospects. Prospects being your potential customers, and pipeline being the internal steps you take to identify those potential customers and then nurture them through your sales process. Obviously, we need prospects, and we've talked a little bit about ways that we can kind of miss opportunities to follow up with those prospects. What about the biggest challenges you've seen that have elongated sales processes when they could have been shortened, but because people didn't have a good process, they ended up kind of dragging that out and potentially even lost the sale? So Erika, I'd love to start with you in terms of what you've seen as biggest challenges in the sales process.
I would say if you don't know what, if you haven't built out your constraints, if you haven't determined what do I need in my sales cycle so I could determine how long my sales cycle is going to be, then you're going to inevitably be all over the place in risk losing some prospects. So I could say even for the 10,000 Small Businesses program, we have a long recruitment process. It's very long. However, to accommodate that constraint, we stay in touch with our pipeline. We stay in touch with those who have interest. So it's not as simple as, here's a deadline to apply, 10 weeks out. It's apply now, create the urgency, as people show interest, follow up with them to say, are you still interested? We want to make sure that you get your application in time. We invite you to an information session to learn more. We'll be in your neck of the woods, to network and provide more information about the program. It's just that ongoing touch points that you need to just sprinkle throughout that sales cycle, regardless of what the duration of it is.
Now, I love the way you frame that up, because you've really kind of like taken, at least crux one of sales and drilled it down, because really all that is nurturing that relationship and building that relationship and letting them know that the relationship still exists. Hi, we're still here for you. We still care about what your goals are. We're going to give you some more information so you're not feeling left out in the cold. And when you're ready, we're going to be ready. I mean, that is really the crux of all sales, is building relationships. That's why I felt confused when I realized that I was in a sales position, because when somebody asked me, this is like the early days, like early 2010s. And I was like working as a consultant. I thought, it was a consultant. It's not the same as running a business. I've learned that there's a difference between being a consultant and, running a small business. And somebody asked me, so how do you like being a consultant? How do you like being in sales? And I was like, I'm not in sales. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, how do you get business? I'm like, well, people tell me like what their problems are, and then I just tell them I can solve it, and then tell them how much it costs. And they're like, that's pretty much the sales process. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm in sales then. This is amazing. So if you think about it again, like from that perspective of you're building that relationship, and, from a marketing perspective, it's being top of mind when that person's ready to make that decision. And then being able to have the systems and the processes in place so that when they're ready to decide, they're able to decide with you. Abby, what's your perspective on challenges that contribute to elongated sales or challenges to the sales process?
This is a loaded question for me. So you may have to cut me off like, okay, that's enough. Okay. So I'm heavy on retail background. And so I would cite 3 areas: cash flow, forecasting, and raw material availability.
Okay.
So those compile together. So for example, I was working with a client, and with the pandemic, certain raw materials were very hard to come by. Which affected the amount of time that product would come in. And because there was no cash flow available, there was no pool of cash to pull from, there was a limited amount of money that could be spent on acquiring the product once it came in. On top of that, improper forecasting as to how much you wanted to sell by planning out your marketing goals, your sales goals. All of those 3 just kind of work hand in hand to create chaos and just dissatisfaction among customers, which again goes to the customer is not always right. So setting those clear expectations. So having that reserve of cash to pull from, so that when there are instances where there could be a shortfall with product availability or raw materials, you can look at your forecast and decide, okay, this is what we project to purchase because this is what we need. This is the amount of sales that we need to close. You can purchase accordingly. So improper forecasting, lack of cash flow, all really add up to catastrophe, especially when, with raw materials, that's totally out of your hands. And not all times is there an option B when it comes to raw materials, or if there is an option B, it may not be readily available or extremely higher in cost. So cash flow and forecasting are just very key challenges to that sales cycle. Because once a customer gets upset, they need their product, they want their product. So once they're upset because they can't get it, they will go elsewhere. So being able to stay in the loop on, your forecasting and your ability to get products in is so key. So forecasting is so very necessary. And having that cash flow to pull from is so very necessary.
Absolutely. And Michelle is like right there with you, especially it sounds like in terms of the pandemic and seeing that supply chain disruption. And we saw that all over the place, right? Like that was one of the major issues for many small businesses, is not having cash flow, not having access to reserves, not being able to access alternatives to getting the raw materials that they needed. One of the things that Michelle has also kind of thrown in here in the chat is giving prospects too many options makes it hard for them to decide. So are there any kind of recommendations that people have in terms of trying to narrow down, it says, the options for prospects? And my first instinct is, where are you seeing the greatest level of stickiness in terms of if you're seeing people who are coming in through, say, your newsletter, and they're really, you see that they're opening it, you see that they're reading it, continue to engage them in that way. If you see that prospects are really engaging with you via your direct emails, continue that way and continue that framework. But Courtnee, I'd love to volley this over to you and hear a little bit about both challenges and recommendations that you have for guiding prospects through that sales cycle.
I don't have a lot on this, but I will speak to the service side of it. So I think one of the biggest challenges for small business owners is that we wait too long to hire someone on our team. And so therefore the sales cycle is longer because we're in the weeds. We're doing all of the work. And so this is for profit, this is nonprofit. Like, how intentional, I like continue to use that word today, but how intentional are you about building relationships? Like, I see Conspire on the call. Mark knows we probably get together like once a quarter. Same with you, probably more, Dr. Pryor. So how often, right, are you staying in contact with the people that will be good leads or support your business in that way? If you have been in business like 2 to 5 years, I do this all the time with the business owners that come in that we help. I take them back to the business model canvas, to the very beginning, and to get very clear about who their customer is and who they're serving. And then look at those segments, like, where are they? Sometimes the cycle is too long because, to Erika's point, you're trying to reach too many people. And if there's one of you or you have a team of 2, you have to be so mindful about where you're directing your time. And again, what's that return on investment to have coffee with someone? Are you having coffee with the people that are going to help you bring in sales and income for your business? That's something that we really got to think about. But as business owners, we wait too long to bring on someone to help us grow our business.
So true. So true. And the number of people who have been like, do you have a person helping you? Do you have an EA? I'm like, yes, Kelsey, if she was not here, I would get nothing done. But I think the other challenge to the elongated sales process is the unwillingness or the fear of asking for the sale, right? Like frequently people kind of work all the way up and they never actually ask for the sale, wait for the response, follow up, and then determine if they have a yes or a no. They send out a proposal and then they hope and pray that this person may or may not follow up with them, or they send out an invoice and they hope and pray that this person may or may not follow up with them. So I think the other thing that we really want to make sure that we're mindful of is that we are asking for the sale. And I have seen business owners, and this is really distasteful, but it frequently happens where they'll milk you for a good 3 or 4 months on test projects and, model projects, this, and next thing you know, you've kind of executed on half of the work and you've received no payment. And now that you're asking for payment, they're like, well, what am I going to pay you for? You just did all this for free. So something definitely to consider there. Our next sales goal is pricing strategy, and we won't have enough time to dig into every single piece of this, America, but we are going to be doing a specific webinar on pricing strategy. So get excited. But there are, as many of you know, there are a number of different pricing strategies that you can utilize. And you may or may not know, or maybe this is just a re-emphasis today, that your price communicates more than just the worth of your products and services. And that it, of course, should include your costs of production, your costs of doing business, and any product or service expenses. And I say that, of course, because I, again, didn't realize I was in sales. And the first go time around, and I'm sure Courtney, Abby, and Erika meet plenty of people that come through the door and they're only charging for their hourly rate. And then when you actually start digging into a price analysis, you're like, well, no wonder you're struggling. You're actually losing money at every go round and leaving money on the table. So pricing strategy is really one of those things where it's an evolving door, but I think you can find a sweet spot. And so I'd love to kind of hear from our panel a little bit about why a phrase like "send me a rate sheet" sends people into a hypoglycemic shock. Like they're like, "Oh God, send you." You know, why don't you send me and then no, that's not how the process works. So Courtnee, why don't you start us out a little bit about mistakes that founders make, why send me your rate sheet sends people into shock? What's your thoughts there?
I'm just going to tee us up and then I'm going to back off, right? But like looking at, okay, so this is like real talk. So looking at who is here today and knowing that the majority are women business owners. So we know right now, y'all, in America, we are making what? 60 to maybe 75 cents on the dollar that a man is making. Okay. We
always already starting from behind there. That's the
right.
lesson.
And so I firmly believe with everything in me that entrepreneurship is a way in which we can create generational wealth. And for people of color, we can break cycles of poverty. However, we have to look at our relationship with money. That's where it starts. How this relates to sales is because women, we are undercharging and we're under earning. And how do we correct that? We go back to the very beginning. As children, what is our relationship with money? Financial trauma is real. So when we get to, why do we get freaked out when someone asks us to send our rate sheet? There's something inside of us that makes us feel we are not worth what we're charging. I see women and men every single week that come into my office that are not charging enough for their services. Are they not encompassing all of the work that they're doing? No, they're not. But taking it a step back, they are not fully comfortable with receiving the money that they should be with their gifting and their skills. That's all I'm going to say. And then I'm going to let the other ones jump in.
Oh, okay. That was it. So, I appreciate you being curt. Yeah, you definitely smashed it right there. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why I feel so passionate about this topic and creating this training and creating this space, because that's really like the crux of the first component of being afraid of sales and being scared of it, is that we have a fear around, we're going to put these numbers out. And as we said, people are going to evaluate this and they're going to say, this number represents how much you're worth. And that's not necessarily the case. But if we are undervaluing ourselves, that only comes out in our rate sheet, right? In the same way that we talked about, if you have no idea really what your grant is, and if you actually align with like this organization and their priorities, all of that's going to come out in your proposal, because you cannot sort of communicate what it is that you can't articulate. Abby, what is your perspective on pricing strategy and biggest mistakes?
Well, first off, Courtney, drop that Cash App in the chat, because woo, girl, that was worth some money.
Wasn't it though? Yes.
Yes, I agree. When the request for that rate sheet comes out, it's like, oh my gosh. I think there's a fear that we are overpricing ourselves due to personal devalue, Or possibly it's the question of, are we leaving money on the table? You know, is it actually shoot low, you know, where I might be charging X amount, but there was actually X amount more that could have been given. But of course, like I always hate when I see salary ranges and it's like, okay, it could be from 50,000 to 65,000. Well, that's a big span. And of course, when I come in, I'm going to want to come in at the top. So that pricing, in the same adage, when you're asked for your pricing, I think that there is a fear of that you're either overpricing yourself or that you're going to leave money on the table. And then to what you had said earlier about doing the work for free, no one respects free, you know. It's not
Okay,
valued.
okay, hold on now. Say that again, and the people for the back,
Hey,
please,
y'all in the
because
back.
thank you.
Absolutely. People don't value free. They don't have any skin in the game, so they have nothing to lose. So here you are giving all of your intellectual properties for free for someone to take and run away with. And then when you do maybe come back and ask for the business, it's like, well, you've given them the blueprint, and so what do they need you for? And the theory is that they could take that blueprint and execute it themselves, which they may or may not to a certain extent, but you've given them so much for free on the front end that it really takes away the value that you can bring by actually executing the job yourself.
Absolutely. And that's something that, again, I think in our sales mind or in the myths that we have created for ourselves, that we have come to believe that you have to give something away for free. And I mean, yeah, you give something away for free, but it's not all the goods, right? It's not all the juicy juice. It's not all of the, as you said, the IP. It's not all of the whole product line. You can't give all that away for free. You want to generate interest, but you can't give away the goods for free. Erika, what's your perspective here?
So what comes to mind for me is I heard it phrased that, you know, if you were a woodworker and you were carving out the product that a customer needs, that what you could give away for free is the sawdust that hits the floor.
Correct.
So you're not going to do anything with it, but it is of some value that you can give away and still sleep at night. But you're not giving away that, you know, that woodworking that you poured all your heart and effort into. So, you know, that's a frame of mind that you can take in trying to determine, you know, what is the essence of my offering versus what are just complementary things that just comes with the experience of what I have to offer. I think to Courtney's point, we do need to work on our mindset. We do need to work on healing from financial trauma. And that may be, you know, taking a moment for yourself and pausing to see, okay, you know, where are my roadblocks with that? Or it may be, I need to jump off this cliff, go ahead and put together my, you know, price sheet and tweak it as I go. And understand, and look at what comes up for me as I put that out there. So we may not know until we go ahead and jump off, you know, that cliff with putting out our prices. And you're not always going to get it right the first time. You probably won't get it right the first time, but you got to start. And then in addition to that, it's not time to people please, it's time to negotiate. So if you're in a market to where you don't have to necessarily list out your prices on your website or on your brochure, but you can say, let's set up a call to discuss the offering and the value that it adds to your business so that you can understand why the price is what the price is, then we could be, you know, we could start that negotiation to say, well, this is what's in my budget. Not, you know, the first question being, well, what is your budget? Well, okay, this is my price. So based on my price, then you can, you know, you're going to take care of yourself and I'm going to take care of myself. So you speak up and say, well, my budget isn't quite that. And then you could determine, is it worth this transaction? Is working with this company or this organization worth adjusting my price for? Because it may be, they may be a higher profile. They may have the followers or the members that you're looking for, to where in that conversation, you're negotiating those adjustments. But definitely it's not the time to take care of someone else's feelings about your price.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think even just double clicking on that negotiation, right? Like a lot of people are very afraid to negotiate. They feel like this is going to be where the client says, okay, I'm done. Right. And the same thing kind of in the job process. People don't want to necessarily negotiate. They feel like this is going to be the time where the employer says, you're asking for too much, we're over it. And that may be the case. And if that's the case, then this is probably not the situation for you. Right. But I mean, I think each time you want to always make sure that you are negotiating, because it also ensures that you're clearing up the terms of the business and what it is that you're doing and not doing. Because I don't know about y'all, but scope keep is real. People will tell you, I want A, B, C over here. And then as soon as they reel you in, they're trying to get a whole lot more from you. And so being active in that negotiation up front is really going to like empower you to know what you're doing, what you're delivering, what you're not doing, and what you will not be delivering. Now, we've got one more sales principle here, so I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about it. Oh, and you know what? Here it is, Michelle Uber. Be willing to walk away. You are so right, girl. Be willing to walk away. I have walked away from business relationships because I valued the relationship and the future potential business one could bring versus that little bit of money that we was fighting over on that teeny tiny project. So again, when we talk about high profile, we talk about clients and customers that have a great reach or a great influence. It may be worth it to negotiate or alter your prices because there's some additional value that they're bringing to the table that you're able to leverage. Payment collection. So this is strategies and processes to ensure you collect payment and that you are compensated and you get that coin. Okay. And so it sounds simple. It sounds simple, but there are definitely mistakes that people make when it comes to actually collecting payments. And so, Erika, I'm going to start with you here. What are some recommendations that you have for business owners who are experiencing challenges collecting payment? And this may be one that's, I don't know, uniquely for women or people of color or service industry or whatever the case may be, but there's always going to be some people who are stalling on the payment. What's your recommendations for kind of speeding that up and getting the money in the door?
I think there are multiple challenges. So one of them is, understanding, how tech savvy are you? Can you establish online merchant account? Can you offer multiple ways of payment online? And that means not only through your website, you may have a separate portal to, provide a link for. Definitely, if you do on-site sales, you want to have the equipment that you can attach to your phone or your tablet in order to capture those transactions. And so I would say, tech savviness can be a challenge for folks. Also, for those who are very tech savvy, they are not used to invoices. They're not used to purchase orders. They are not used to some of the more bureaucratic ways of doing transactions. And so
that's a very delicate way of putting it, bureaucratic. Thank you.
Net 30 and net 60, and what does that mean? And you determining the terms of this is how long it can take for you to pay me, for it to work for my business, to get that money, in my pocket and what I've, offered to you based on what I've offered to you. So I would say on both sides, you have to account for being tech savvy and the options that go with that transaction, ways of payment, and then also be adaptable for bigger organizations who work through purchase orders and invoices.
No, those are really great recommendations. And to that point of being tech savvy as well as being flexible, just recognizing that all the payment, e-commerce, tech is not created equal, right? And so that's one way that you're able to leave those coins, is what you're utilizing potential systems that are taking more than the value that they may be offering. So doing kind of your due diligence and your research to identify how much fees you're paying for each of those transactions, and if there's a potential tech solution that is going to be of better value for you, or if you're going to utilize that selectively. You know, one of the things that I kind of just did that I didn't even realize was an option was I took the option of paying by PayPal away, because PayPal be taking too much of my money, and I'm not down for it any longer, right? But I didn't realize that until I started comparing alongside some of the different options and realizing that A, that's an option I can take off, and then B, how much money I'm losing in PayPal fees annually. So again, thinking about that tech and how it can be productive for you. Courtney, what's your recommendation for payment collection, and maybe how to stimulate that if you're not getting paid?
Yes, similar to what Erika, pointed on, one, set up, payment terms. So always have payment terms for yourself. If you're working one-on-one and you're working with clients, one thing that you can do is, before they can schedule, collect payment. Another thing, if you are a consultant or if you are a service provider and you work with someone, say you're working with them like 3 to 6 months, or there's a period of time, your calendar doesn't open until those payments come through. So that's very common in like coaching or even counseling. So if you're doing 2 services a month, it's like, after the payment happens on the 15th of the month is when your calendar opens for the next month and they can schedule. So that's if you're working like small, right? Like one-on-one. I think if you're working with mid-size, like smaller companies, as women, again, we're intimidated as far as asking, when are we going to get paid, right? So you're just excited. Maybe you got the contract, you got the business. The next, the next step would be find out what their payment cycle is. When do they pay their contractors or their vendors? And then most of the time, well, pretty much 97% of the time, unless you're working with providing services for another small business, whoever is cutting the checks, y'all, like, that's not their money. So if it's Tammy in accounts payable, just email Tammy in accounts payable, like, remove the emotion from behind it. That's not her money she's cutting the check for, right? She's not emotionally invested in that. And then to Erika's point, if you're working with larger companies, you need to ask yourself, can you afford to work with that size of a business
Absolutely.
based upon where you are in your capacity? I mean, real talk, we have financial programs here. Freedom Equity, we are able to lend for working capital. And there are people that are in our pipeline who need what is essentially a bridge loan until they get paid from a contract that they have. And that's real. The same works for large, the Minority Contractor Resource Center exists for that. So you can have minorities and women actually come into some of these subcontracting jobs because they don't get paid within 30 days. So that's real. You need to evaluate your company size before going out for a big job and say, is this something that my business can afford to wait on? Like, this check, can I wait 60 days? And what are going to be the consequences if I do take this job with a huge company on my small business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fabulous. And Abby, last point on this. What is your recommendation for getting the payment in?
I echo everything that was said. Definitely, I love in consulting collecting that retainer up front. And so I'm only going to really do as much work as that retainer allows. And once that's replenished, then we can move forward. But there's nowhere you can go and work for free, or there's nowhere you should go and work for free. So I think that it's really important to establish and communicate clear payment terms up front, and then hold those individuals accountable to that. It can avoid a lot of confusion and delays in payment. And then also you can talk about any type of late payment penalties. So putting those on paper in a contract really holds that party to payment. And then you have recourse in the event that they don't follow through.
Absolutely. These are all been great recommendations. I know I have certainly been in situations where I have had to stop at work activity. I'm like, your invoice is grossly overdue. I'm going to go ahead and stop work activity. But I mean, there again, I think, sometimes when you're in a service-based business or as a service-based professional, you feel like, oh my God, I'm letting this person down. I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. But as Courtney said, like, you've really got to kind of get the emotion out of the business, out of the sales, in a meaningful way, because those emotions are really holding you back, and people will see that and figure out how it is that they can manipulate that in order to, kind of continue to benefit themselves in their business. So that has been our 5 sales principles here. We have done an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much to Courtney and Abby and Erika for joining me today. We would love to have your feedback on our survey here to give us an idea of how we did today, what kinds of information we continue to bring to you in the future. Mark, thank you so much. We were so happy to put this together. Super powerful wisdom, he says, dropped today. I knew that was going to happen. When I saw this panel, I didn't even think about it when I put it together. I saw this panel and I was like, ooh, it's a beautiful panel of beautiful people that have so much talent and information to give. Our next event's coming up. So thank you everyone for joining us. Our next event's coming up. Again, like I said, can you send me your rate sheet? Okay, I'll see if anybody actually comes, because people might be scared to even come and just have the conversation. So we'll see what happens. And then in August, we are hosting our first live event near the end of the month. So we'll be doing a SmashCon live boot camp preview, and you'll be able to meet and hear from some of the folks that are going to be joining us for that event. So we are really excited and looking forward to that. Courtney, Abby, Erika, any last words before we shut it down for today? Courtney, I feel like there's last word in you. You got any last advice or recommendations you want to offer?
Yeah, just thanks for being here. Again, if you can, they're great ecosystem providers on this call. Everyone's got great talents. I've referred so many businesses to Dr. Pryor to really clarify the way in which they tell their story. There is a way in which you can invite others into the work that you do, to where they naturally ask you, how much is it going to cost me to work with you? And that's what you want to do. Dr. Erika Pryor can help you do that. Conspire's on here that does marketing and branding. If you get solid on who your customer is and what you have to offer, and position yourself in a place that your customer is there, the sky, it's endless. And again, I'm very serious about women and what our life looks like as far as legacy building. So really spend some time, getting some, support. If you are struggling financially, there's no shame, but really position yourself for long-term success. And that is being honest with where you are, reaching out to these service providers and jumping in on calls like this to just move the needle a little further by getting the information that you need right now for your business. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Abby, any last parting words you want to share with us today?
Yes, I believe that a lot of times we let progress, or that we let perfection be the hindrance of progress. So I encourage you to just start. You have to just start. It's not going to start off pretty. It's not going to be perfect, but just start. And I also am a firm believer that you must start with the end in mind. Where is it that you want to go? And then how can you back into that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Erika, last thoughts with us today.
Yeah, Dr. Pryor, I also want to thank you for having me. This has been very exciting and very engaging. So, I myself have learned a lot in addition to being part of the panel. And my parting words would be that asking for help is the first step to owning the problem you're trying to solve. So, and it's also a time saver. If you're stuck, if you have a roadblock, if you are focusing on things being perfect, to Abby's point, versus getting started, that's the time to step back and make a phone call. Step back and register or schedule time with a business advisor. There are plenty through, to Courtney's point, the ecosystem that's in Columbus, the ecosystem that's in Cleveland, and wherever you are located, there is an ecosystem of organizations that you could tap into for free, to start for free, to get you unstuck, and get you in a place of progress and motion. So definitely asking for help is the start of owning the problem you're trying to solve.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I think my parting words for you are really just part of the Smash Nation, which is that we want to continue to provide you and deliver innovative training, these fabulous webinars, different ways that as business owners continue to progress through their life cycle, they're able to jump in, because at each phase of the life cycle, your business is going to look different. Your sales are going to change and alter. And so we are just so happy that you've been with us today. Thank you so much to our panel. Thank you everyone for joining us. That's the end of Smashing Your Sales Goals Experts Tell All. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.